Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Senate Roundtable. I've got a bunch of great people here with us today to have another conversation about what's currently going on in the world of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. As always, I have my partner in crime, Brax Nightfinder. Obviously, does the two MFers podcast with me. How you doing tonight, Brax? Did we lose Brax already? All right, we'll come back to Brax. We'll move back to Lab Monkey, who runs the just for tips episodes, and obviously our original podcaster. Lab Monkey, why don't you tell us what guild you're in and what kind of GP that you're running?
Sure, Rem. Hey, everyone. I'm Lab Monkey, and I am one of the Mandalore officers, and I am about 8 million GP, just crossed the threshold not too long ago. And I have all the GLs except for Jabba. Currently working on them.
Man, I remember when I was like 2 million GP above you. That's just ridiculous, sir. Just wow. All right. Also with us is a regular contributor, Meet You Later. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what guild you're in, and what kind of GP that you're running?
Sure. I'm an officer in Endor. I currently just crossed 6.5 million GP. I have 4 GLs. I just unlocked SLKR. I'm working on his ult. Now I'm just grinding away at profundity.
Nice. That's a fun one right there. Also joining us tonight is R2DQ. Believe you've been with us before, haven't you not, R2DQ?
I was on for the Mortis Spotlight podcast, but this is my first time here in an official Senate update roundtable.
Yes, that's what I remembered. So, okay, obviously you're in Mortis, but tell us a little bit more about yourself, your position, and what kind of GP that you're running.
Yeah, I'm the guild leader of Mortis. I have an 8.1 million GP. I have 4 GLs and both Executor and Profundity. And it's just a matter of time. Mortis is at 299 million, so very soon we hope we'll be able to start pulling some R9 mats that don't involve crystals.
Yeah, that's always a good moment. I don't know if we have Brax yet around. Okay, it doesn't look like it. Again, this is Rem. I am a guild officer within Mustafar, also the guild leader of Jeddah. I have both my counts that I'm running in either one of those guilds are around 7.3 million GP. My Mustafar account has 4 GLs. My Jeddah account has 3 GLs. I also run a third account that's sort of semi-retired. It's sitting with Octube right now, and that sits around 1.9 million GP. And I'm starting to push for my first GL on that account. So we have a great agenda planned for everyone tonight, but we're going to start with where Jabba sits in the meta. Anyone want to fire that conversation off?
He's good. He's really good. I don't know how many have you guys fought him yet? I don't think anyone. Lab's close to getting him. No one else has him here yet. Have you guys had a chance to go against him in either like TW or like Squad Arena, GAC?
No, I haven't run into him just yet. We only have one in Mortis right now, and they're still grinding out the ult. So
yeah, he kicked my ass pretty hard in like Squad Arena, with a few different teams. That is a tough squad to beat right now.
Yeah, I faced him in Squad Arena once or twice just to play around. Not that I take that mode seriously anymore. Yeah, he's a complete pain in the neck. I took my Kenobi against him, and I did find a way through it, but I doubt that I'd be able to solidly defend on a regular basis.
Yes, I've fought Jabba quite a few times at this point. I saw him in most of my GAC rounds this past season,
Oh,
and we see him in Territory War 2. We probably see guilds with around like 10 to 12 Jabba's unlocked right now. I imagine when Bushleia becomes farmable, we will start seeing quite a few more in about 3 or 4 weeks after that starts dropping on the table. So yeah, he's good. He currently has 1 off meta counter, and he's beaten by two GLs. Well, okay, 3 GLs right now, fairly consistently. SLKR is probably the shakiest counter. You can win with him depending on like your mods and the opposing Jabba's relic levels and team composition. But SLKR can beat him, and I expect that with this new set of Datacons, he can beat him quite handily.
Yeah.
So JMK can beat him. That was my go-to counter. I used it a couple of times in the GAC season. Although I will say that if you use a somewhat budget JMK team like I do, where Cat is R5, JMK is R7, I haven't really pushed relic levels on that one. Oh yeah, Ahsoka, like regular Ahsoka, is also R5.
Yeah.
It gets real dicey. You have to play it exactly right. You have to do a fast ult. You can't wait for a full ult charge, and you have to leap onto Skiff Lando and all kinds of stuff. And if there's a dodge cron on Jabba, then you can time out on it if you're not fast enough, which I did one time. So yeah, but Jabba is for real. You can't take JML against him. You can't really take C against him. Lord Vader, of course, demolishes him right now because of the crazy Datacron. It's kind of hard to see exactly where that matchup will sit once that Datacron ends, but just looking at the kits, it does look like Lord Vader counters most of what Jabba wants to do. So I expect that would be a bad banner win most of the time as well. So
Yeah, I think you're correct. Lord Vader is probably going to be the hard GL counter against him, just because that team is designed to better take the thermal detonators that are being thrown out.
yeah, Lord Vader doesn't care about thermals, which is a big part of
Exactly.
what Jabba does. So yeah, it would end up probably getting into like a solo, and then Lord Vader would end up beating Jabba, I think.
So do we think he's better than JMK?
Oh,
That's the high mark, right? Like Vader's great right now because of his Datacrons, but JMK's still the best GL.
I don't know, man. Like it feels like everything beats JMK these days.
It
Like,
feels like they've been designing a lot of kits around getting through JMK. Yes.
yeah,
everything can beat him, but JMK can beat pretty much everything else, though, too.
yeah. Well, not Lord Vader right now, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. And then JMK also has a kit that does pretty well in every other game mode, also.
Yeah, he's huge in Conquest. Well,
Yeah.
he and Cat.
So it's I don't just look at PvP. I look at everything. I mean, ugh. Bang for the buck. I still think SLKR is the best GL. In terms of if you're a new player coming up, that's the first one you should probably go after. It's the best bang for the buck. That's my personal opinion. You guys can disagree. And then I would say JMK is the next one after that.
I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole of GL relative power, and if we could get 6 different opinions in here.
Yeah,
I know.
absolutely.
But that's part of the conversation is where does Jabba sit in the meta? Like the meta isn't just PvP.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, let's
he can
rank
solo
Jabba.
HSTR.
He
Kind of.
does.
He
He does, yeah.
needs a little help, but yeah, he'll get that done, no problem. Few minutes.
Does he?
Chin and out.
Do we know if he needs the Omicron on Boosh Leia to do it?
I don't know. I just
know-
watched that video and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I saw the video, and I know that Fatal has the Omicron. So, but I didn't really follow it after that because A, I don't have Jabba, and B, it doesn't really matter for me because I already have 2 other GLs that solo HSTRs. So, like, I don't really care. So, but for some people, it'll matter.
Has anyone seen how he does in CPIT?
We had a guy take him into P4, and he did, without the ult, he did 1.9 million.
Yeah.
And could have done more, except for that ended the raid. So,
yeah, he's good at CPIT.
Okay. So we're all sitting here saying that Jabba is definitely going to be a great GL, but can we agree that the investment is also very high?
it didn't have any R9s, which was one of the things that I was pleased to see. I mean, we're paying the price with so many marquee tunes coming out. But it was nice to see that he's a little bit more accessible to non 300 million plus guilds out at the moment.
Yeah, that is fair.
I was kind of surprised at how relatively inexpensive he was compared to like what we were expecting. I mean, no R9s is a big part of that. But I mean, yeah, the majority of his cost is in the marquees, which all 3 are great characters. Obviously, all 3 of them are going with Jabba too. You're basically farming up his team to go with him.
Which is great. Like
Yeah,
that's
which is,
so
I mean, it's
important
fine.
when you're looking at how the farm looks and what you have at the end of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's expensive because he's a GL, but I don't think he's an expensive GL. I think he's pretty reasonably cost, all things considered, for what you get.
It's Jedi Knight Luke.
He's not Lord Vader.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
Lord
not.
Vader is really, I mean, his relic levels are pretty ridiculous. And then you got to relic up his team more after you get him.
Oh, and by the way, I'm Brax Night Fighter, and apparently my headphone sucks, and I'm finally in the conversation.
Okay,
Brax.
so Brax, why don't you tell us your guild and your GP?
Mustafar, I am 7.6 million, 2 GLs, just working on getting something going.
Fair enough. All right. Any more comments on the Jabba, how Jabba sits in the meta? Or are we ready to move on to the next conversation?
I do think I would be curious. I know SLKR we go what our beginner GL should be. But SLKR, if you're a newer player, SLKR you still got to get finalizer. So that's still a fairly long farm. JKL seems like it's the big hurdle that Jabba has. Everything else is pretty straightforward. This is I don't know about new player friendly, but your second GL, this might be in the conversation with instead of Kenobi for your second GL.
I can live with that because SLKR, what makes him great is as your first GL is you get so many other beneficial teams from it as you're trying to build yourself up. And I don't see a lot of that from Java. You're not going to build a bunch of other, early game strong meta teams that allow you to really branch out and grab the other tunes that you're going to need to diversify your roster. But to your point, he's pretty cheap after that. Once you've hit once you put that initial investment in and gotten your first GL, you should have a decent array of tunes. You can probably afford to take the Java track. I'm not saying that I haven't done the math on it or have gone down the rabbit hole like other people will do, but that's just kind of my intuition that I've received. And again, I'm not an expert on this.
I think from that standpoint, though, I think you could argue Jedi Master Luke probably his requirements are probably the most useful of all the GL.
So Brax, you're breaking up quite a bit, at least on my end. But
Yeah.
I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. When you go for JML, you get the core of several high-end
Yes.
squads. Like you get the basis of the CLS squad, you get the basis of the Mon Mothma squad, and then you've got Wampa that can wreck stuff up in GAC. So you get a lot. There's a lot of bang for your buck with JML, but it is a hefty investment to get there to start.
It is. It really is, and that's
Fantastic.
that's why I think SLKR is still your best bang for your buck as your first GL, but Jabba is a very strong second because you get to go for JML. And I think too many people have too many new players that I've watched are skipping those what I consider fundamental teams, such as CLS and so on. And Jabba kind of gets you going down that road in a very solid way. So that's just my take on it. But Lab,
I haven't thought hard about how I would farm a new account lately. I think there's just so much to take into consideration,
Yeah.
and the game has definitely changed a lot since I was at that point in time myself. And so, I, if I just had to choose off the cuff answer, I would say SLKR first sounds very reasonable, just because you get so much for him, and his relic and Cairo costs are relatively low compared to almost all the other GLs. And he's
And it-
also kind of a dead end GL too. Like you farm his entire faction to get him. So if you don't do him early, you end up you you have a real hard time getting him in later. So I do think SLKR first sounds right.
Yeah, and the big positive about SLKR, if you do it right, you get a strong ship team really quickly.
Yeah,
Which you
I mean, final
which you
edition.
don't get. Yeah, which you don't get from any of the other farms.
I think that the big decision points for a newer account come in the 2 to 4 GL range, where
Yeah.
I agree where you guys said that JML is a really good farm because it gives you so many fundamental teams. I think that it's hard to recommend rushing him like it was. I mean, he was my first GL, and that was the right choice at the time because of the way the GAC was. But nowadays, I think getting a GA or a GL quicker than you can with the get one token gate that JML has. I
Yeah.
think going SLKR first is correct. But I think new players would be remiss if they didn't heavily consider JML for the second or third. And the other reason besides all of those fundamental teams is because getting Jedi Knight Luke, like so my roadmap is this: you go for SLKR, you hoard up all of your get one tokens, or
Yes.
you don't hoard, but you buy up Hermit Yoda and Wampa. And by the time you finish SLKR, you're a good chunk into those, and then you can kind of get those Jedi Knight Luke requirements in a reasonable amount of time and be able to do JML next. And then once you have JML, then you can make the decision, well, what's my GP? Am I crossing the 4 million barrier pretty soon? Then you want to consider JMK because you can start going for cat. But I think more than anything, JMK ends up getting pushed further and further back, because even when you cross 4 million, like you still have to farm cat from the training or proving grounds, and you have to pay an exorbitant crystal cost to get her, if you want to refresh that thing enough to unlock her quickly. So I think JMK gets pushed back to like maybe 4th or 5th GL just because he's not really a GL without cat, and you end up going for probably Jabba after JML, right? Because you have Jedi Luke.
Yeah, I
That's
think
my
that's
idea.
fair.
Yeah.
The only concerning thing I have about that is The one great thing about JMK is gas. And you get a lot out of gas also. So it's a real hard decision right there. But I'm not disagreeing with you, Lab Monkey. I think you're right on track on the proper order.
Yeah, you'll give up things no matter what path you go down.
Exactly.
So you just kind of got to figure out which ones are most important to you.
Yep.
I
All right.
wonder if
So let's
if
go ahead.
Datacrons actually change the path that people choose to, because if you know that you're close and that you might be able to catch a Datacron when you can use it with that GL, you might choose to go that path.
I would highly, highly recommend against making any kind of decisions on what GL to farm next because of a Datacron that's out currently.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's going to go away before you get there. I mean,
I 100%
yeah, unless you're
agree, but I'm just saying people's thoughts process.
Yeah, I mean, if I had everything ready for a GL, but wasn't going for him, yeah, maybe I'd go that way. But it's highly unlikely that anyone's going to really be in that spot. Have
and
all of the tunes, the oddball tunes wrecked as much as they can for that GL. It's just not worth it.
yeah, and even if you do, then you still have to build the tickets up to get the ultimate. And by the time you do all that, 45 days have passed.
True.
It's unless you're unless you have the GL already, that Datacron is not going to do any good. All right, let's move on to the next discussion. So did Ray even get lifted, boys? Let's talk about this. Did she even get any help?
Swallow.
All right, talk about that.
Did anyone
Honestly,
so,
I haven't unlocked him yet, so I don't have Ray, so I'm not in a good position to talk about that.
So Lab, you're the one who screamed out solo. Let's go.
No, that was me.
That wasn't me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. RTD DQ. Go for it.
Okay,
No, I mean,
well,
from what I've seen, I've watched some videos, and it makes Ray definitely more viable. Especially against JMK and whatnot, who is pretty easily going through her.
All right,
But
so I'm gonna pause you really quickly. Set up the scenario. Explain what you're talking about as of what possibly may be lifting her. What happened?
again, I don't have him, and I don't have Ray, so I don't know the specifics. I've just seen some videos where Ray was able to take down a full JMK squad in with Swolo in a way that she wasn't able to prior to his release.
yeah. So I think what Rim's getting at is so Ben Solo was the latest conquest unit that was released with the last set of conquests that were done were finished last month in October, and so he's considered the lifter unit for Rey, as Cat is to JMK, as Maul is to Lord Vader, and his kit is very unique. It's very I have to give CG props again. They are very good at making their characters' kits reflect the character from the movie or whatever piece of content they're from. And Ben Solo is no different. He
so that means he's shit because he's from a good movie.
well,
Tangent.
some people do hold that opinion.
I was entertained.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
lad.
but I mean, his kit is full of the flavor of that last scene, right? Sith Eternal talking about them being a dyad in the Force, and Rey healing him. Spoiler alert! If you haven't watched the last movie, I don't know why you haven't if you're playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, but yeah, the the scene is, I mean, his kit is very reminiscent of pretty much everything that happened in that scene, which is really cool. I really like it when they are able to reflect the characters in such a real way that really reminds you of the content that they're originally from. So kudos to CG on that. And I'll let somebody else talk about him. I don't want to.
So the big thing with Solo is, so while Ben Solo's active, Rey can't be defeated. Right? So either Rey, so Jedi, this works for Jedi training Rey too, if you don't have Rey. And then Solo can't be defeated while Rey is above 50% health. So that's kind of like there's other mechanics that he has, but that is kind of the one that will trip people up when they're fighting this battle, right? So Rey has to be below 50%, then you can kill Solo. And if you're fighting against Rey, he's going to go into damage immunity. Like, you're going to get him down, then he'll go into damage immunity. So now you're waiting. Then once he takes a turn, as long as Rey's still below 50%, then you can kill Solo, then you can kill Rey. Right? Like, that is the lifter unit kind of like unique that this character has.
Well, so can you put Swallow into his below 50% mode before you start going after Rey?
Yeah.
I'm not as familiar with this kid as you guys are.
Yeah, like you can get him, but you need to get Reylo.
Yeah,
You have
so
to
you
get,
just can't
yeah.
kill him. You could have him to 1 health, but you just can't kill him, right?
Right.
That's how I understand it. So you could actually run him down, get him below 50, trigger all the other stuff that goes on, then take Rey below 50%, and then kill Ben real quick, and then kill Rey. Correct?
Yeah,
Right.
it's easy to say.
I know it's easy to say.
Yeah.
And there's one squad that can do it can in theory do it well, and that's SLKR. I mean, that's kind of how he beats Rey, that's what he does, right? It's bad banners, but there is a way. But I can see how this is going to be a big lift for Rey, or even for your secondary resistance team. That's what really intrigues me.
I know I've only experienced it once, so I'm just going based off of my one experience. But I faced one in GAC, and I was able to beat it with my Jedi Master Luke, or Jedi Master Kenobi. I'm sorry. And I mean, I still feel like I won handedly, but it was just annoying. Like it just took longer, and so I mean, I think I get like the conversation is, did she actually get lifted? Like I'm not sure it made her like significantly better. I could see where people will struggle with that, but in my experience, it's felt like it was still doable. It just took longer, and it was just a pain in the butt.
I guess to your point, I think this is going to be more of an offensive buff rather than a defensive buff. Anyone who's smart will be able to handle this. Like it isn't a whole lot different than what we've experienced before. But on offense, the computer is probably not going to handle it like what we're typically experienced with Rey teams. It'll, unless they particularly programmed everything to deal with the situation, it'll probably end up being a much better offensive team than what Rey has been in the past.
Okay, so I was looking at kind of the numbers. So I do agree in certain matchups. Your JML likely won't struggle against this. Kenobi will still, because he also has on the first turn, the whole team has what is it, like, damn, they can't be instantly defeated, so you can't use Kat's move on the first turn, her kill. The big thing in GAC is it's gonna shut down C, which is that is outside of the current Darth Vader meta, which is what we're using to kill Rey for a lot of it. He can put healing immunity on C for 4 turns, which pretty much just kills C.
Yes, that's awesome.
So, like, she did, like, this is a much better version of Ray than it was like 2 weeks ago, outside of Datacrons, outside of kind of what team she's running right now because of Dash. Like, this team is a lot better. It holds better against SLKR. It holds better against C. JML probably isn't going to struggle against this. And if your opponent uses JMK against your Ray, you probably also are doing really good.
Yeah. So, do you think this was put into the game in order to make to continue to keep Ray relevant within the PvP meta?
Yeah, I think, like, if she can go on offense and beat JMK, and if she can go on defense and get holds against C and SLKR, I think she's in a better spot now than she was like a couple weeks ago.
Lab.
Couple of thoughts. So want to make sure everybody is aware that the healing immunity is part of his GAC Omicron. So
Yes.
if you want that part of his kit, you'll have to put on his redeemed Omicron, and it only works in GAC. The main GAC Omicron that you want to get first probably is the Force Dyad one, and that's the one we haven't really mentioned this mechanic for him. It only works in GAC, but if Ben is dead, so let's say you go through all the trouble, you bring Ben down, and then you bring Ray down below 50, and then you kill Ben. If your leader takes a turn, Ben revives, like he comes back.
Yeah.
So that can be really tricky to a lot of teams, and that's probably why you see a lot of the hold percentages going up for Ray against teams like SLKR, because they didn't properly navigate that.
Yeah, that's
So,
kind of what I would.
Yeah, just remember it. So the heal immunity Omicron, the 4-turn healing immunity, and it's a locked thing. It's not dispellable. That's primarily what you're going to use to kind of make it really difficult for C to beat you. So if you're looking to put this team on defense, that's a good Omicron to have, I think. And then you guys touched on it. Like it seems like the AI has a really hard time dealing with this type of mechanic, and so Ray is better on offense now. You can kill JMK with resistance instead of having to bring a bunch of Jedi like you did before. So, yeah, overall, Ray definitely got lifted. I think that you will see different results based on your investment on Ben, and I think his optimal modding is still yet to be determined as well.
Now, does he lift up Ray well enough to encourage somebody who does not have her to go for her?
Good question.
Yes. I'm
mean,
going to jump in here and say no. Based on the conversation that we had earlier, I think you've got SLKR. That should be the first one you go after if you're a new player. Second one, we can argue between Jabba and Kenobi. But those are probably your next two as of now. And then by the time you get those three, there's probably going to be better options out there than Ray. Now, if you already have those three, then I say you should probably be going after Lord Vader or C over Ray. Okay, maybe C and Ray are pretty equal. Lab?
It all depends on what kind of player you are and where you
Yeah.
are in the game. I mean, there's no definite answer to this. If you're a person who is, I mean, this game revolves around GLs at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So, like, if you want to play near the top of GAC, then you got to get her at some point.
Yes.
I don't think this would change that player's mind at all. But I mean, for new players, you're right. She's still in the back of the pack in terms of where I would farm her if I was a new player.
Well, it's the same problem, right? It's a new player won't have access to Conquest, which means they're like 18 months away from getting like banned.
Very true.
So it's
Yeah,
like
for sure.
it's like it's that like you have 2 to 3 GLs. Like is her fleet is just it's not there. Like it is still just back of the pack. Like it's the last fleet people put on defense. Uh,
Yeah, that's
which
the
is
problem with.
important.
I'm sorry.
No, and so I think she's good. Like she's good. I'm right now my account. I have 3 GLs left. I have to decide between Jabba, Lord Vader, and Rey. And I think all 3 of them have really good points going for them. And it's not an easy decision on what I want to do next.
That's exactly where I am. So yeah, I'm in a similar dilemma.
Yeah, for newer players, that's the problem with any of these conquest characters is that they are gated behind conquest. So until you can do that, like it's hard to justify necessarily going for that because you're not even going to be able to get it.
Right.
Well,
Which
so I can tell you with my experience. I told you with one of my two 7.3 million accounts. I have 3 GLs. I have SLKR. I have um, JML, and I have Kenobi, who I am now finishing up his ult. I think I have two more to go through until I get his ultimate. And I'm probably going to transition to Jabba. I was planning on Lord Vader, even though I have a lot of the pieces for Rey. I just I I feel so much overlap with Rey as to what I have already that I'd rather go for Jabba or Lord Vader at this point in time. I think I get more benefit out of going for one of those two tunes long term than I do after going after Rey, even though in reality she is probably cheaper to me than either of the other tunes. And I'm a big Rey fan. I have Rey on my main and Mustafar. And I use her a lot, and I love her to death. She's still one of my favorite teams, but I'm just being realistic as to where I feel like the meta is going.
She's a great GL to have, especially in 3v3.
Yes. Oh God, incredibly at 3v3. All right, it sounds like we're ready to move on to the next conversation. Uh, the new conquest unit. What are the implications moving forward for fleets? This is a really interesting one. I am probably going to sit out mostly on this one because my fleets suck. So you all have fun on this.
if your fleet suck, you should be doing Conquest right now. Because this tune might help you a lot. Or this ship might help a lot with your fleets.
All
I
right,
think
somebody talk about it.
well,
Explain what's coming and the potential impact.
the argument though is that it is a ship that is connected to inquisitors that nobody really wants to harm. Nobody wants to to invest in, and so I think that's a challenge right now. Like me personally, like I don't have any inquisitors, and I don't think I will anytime soon. So like it doesn't appeal to me.
Think
All
this
right.
is it might be another hint from CG that we should probably start focusing on our inquisitors a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're probably going to play a pretty large role in the new territory battle.
All right. So I'm going to interrupt real quick and R2 DQ. Say what the new ship is and how we're getting it and
yes.
its relationship to the game.
So this is the Scythe. It is the ship that the Inquisitors have in the Kenobi series, and it is piloted by the Grand Inquisitor, and I believe it's the third brother.
The fifth.
And it is the new Conquest tune that we have in this current and next two conquests.
Okay. And so what are its synergies and how is it supposed to operate within the meta?
That is a very good question, one I will defer to someone smarter than me.
Okay, so I know Mead wants to make a lot of points about this one, so I'm going to leave those points alone. But I'll answer that question. This this ship is supposed to make our second Empire fleet actually strong and worth something. Because right now we have two Empire fleet commanders. We've got Tarkin and we've got Thrawn, but we only have enough Empire ships to make 1.25 fleets.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't really matter which fleet commander you use for the current Empire fleet. They both work extremely well. They got their pros and cons. But this new ship, the Scythe, is built to go with Tarkin. So I think CG's vision is to have Thrawn command the current Empire fleet, the one with the TIE Interceptor as the first reinforcement. So another conquest ship unit, of course. And then this is going to take the leftover Empire fleet / Sith fleet and make it actually good and put it under Tarkin. So this ship, in addition to it being a unit on your battlefield, it also summons 2 additional Imperial TIE fighters to go with it. And so it kind of like fills out the fleet just by itself. So you'll probably only need, 1 or 2 other ships to actually make this fleet function well. And so I think that's what CG's intention is. They want to make sure that we're using both of our Empire fleets, and this kind of almost makes an entire fleet by itself. And I'm not going to go through the whole kit and anything like that, but it looks very strong. I think it will be in a very good place in the meta.
The mechanic where it summons the 2 TIE fighters, that's only if it's with the Executrix, though, right?
I believe so, yes. It does have to be with Tarkin.
Correct. Now, I'm not sure on this. Are those ships resummonable after if they're killed? Like similar to what happens with your separatists.
GGs.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be. It's tied to a unique. It's not tied to an ability.
So it only occurs on as unique as a reinforcement, or at the beginning of the battle?
Beginning of battle.
You can start him. Yeah.
Yeah, and so then if you do kill those TIE interceptors, you don't have to worry about them coming back.
No, they're not resummons, I don't think. It's just like you summon 2 of them either at the start or when he reinforces.
Okay. I think that was very necessary to clear up.
Yeah. But what he does, like if you look at as a unique, he like makes the whole fleet way tankier, and he gives them stacks that like boost their damage and stuff. Like he basically makes the entire fleet by himself, pretty much.
Well, he gives them foresight, and he puts mark on the TIE fighters, so you have to shoot into the TIE fighters with foresight up, which will then boost turn meter to target. It's so gross. It's gonna.
And then,
yeah.
And then of course Tarkin adds offense up all across the board. So
with debuffs. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be gross. It's gonna be gross.
I see it being a ship team on the level of the Separatists.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
All right. Lab said that Meej later had a lot of comments on this. Let's hear them.
Okay, so like I've talked about, like, this isn't an original idea, but like when you're looking at this and you're looking at them splitting Empire into like 2 very strong fleets, this is pushing the number of fleets we have in the game to a number where I don't think setting 3 fleets on defense is going to be something CG wants to do for very much longer. I have a feeling that this is their plan for Empire. We're going to talk about it shortly, but I think that Rebels are going to get a very similar treatment in the very near future, where they will have Profundity and Akbar running two very good fleets. Once that happens, I think Kyber can get ready for 4 fleets on defense for probably like sometime during 2023.
That's gross.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
gross,
want
but
that.
it's gonna happen. There's no point right now. Like, we have 6 fleets, right?
I-
Like, especially with Profundity, like, it's already solved. There's no spot for this fleet. Like, what are you bumping out? Like, Finalizer is already such a strong fleet. Like, once this happens, we're gonna talk. Rebels are gonna get another fleet. It's gonna be gross, and we're gonna have to be. It's gonna be just so much fun.
So, to add on to that point, because I completely agree with you that they are going to increase the number of fleets that we need in GAC. I think the other thing to consider is that this new territory battle is set like at the rise of the Empire.
Yeah.
So, and it's told in a storyline. I think that having 2 Rebel fleets and 2 Empire fleets in that territory battle is going to be very important somehow. So I think that's another reason to expect that that's why they're releasing this conquest unit now,
Yeah.
is because it's going to be released pretty soon after the new TV is released, and I think it'll be an important part of it.
So I'm going to lean into Lab's comment there a little bit. I think this is more has to do with the new TV coming up and less to do with any PvP elements. Um, Typically in fleets, they've always made sure that there are more offensive teams in theory available than what you have to put on defense, because they know they release these teams that you're going to have to two shot them, and I don't think they're going to put us in a situation where it's a 4v4 situation on offense and defense. So until we see another fleet released, I really don't see us moving to 4 fleets on defense in GAC. I do see this as being a very important part of the new TV that is coming out. I'm just saying that to continue conversation on this subject.
Yeah.
All I'm hearing is stop being stubborn and start working on Inquisitors.
No. Not yet. I did the
Eventually.
numbers. So I ran the numbers because I told Endor this, and I broke it all down. I think that if you haven't started Inquisitors yet, it's too late. I don't think it's worth it.
Well, and
think
I can argue that the fleet will still be perfectly fine without Inquisitors, especially as a mop up or something of that nature. Uh, you don't necessarily have to have Inquisitors to make the Tarkin fleet work, especially if you don't have the Akbar, or I'm sorry, the other conquest ship in your Thrawn ship working well. I mean, this is really in-game type of stuff.
I think it's Kyber kind of stuff. I don't think it's Endgame. I think like if Kyber 5 is Endgame, then it's Endgame. But like, I think a lot of our players that are even over 4 million are like sitting in Kyber 5. All I was trying to say was, I think at this point, Inquisitors have been out long enough that if you're still sitting there and you have a 3-star Inquisitor lineup, it is too late to start farming them now, and you should just wait until they become accelerated in April. The amount of resources you're going to waste spending 3 additional months farming those tunes now is not worth the couple of extra months you'll have. Like, it will not be worth it. Right? Like I broke down all the numbers and like looked at it, but like it's a lot of energy. It's
Oh,
you
yeah.
you'll just from farming shards, like just farming shards. It's I think at this point, I think Inquisitors we can talk about like when the new TB comes out, how important they will actually end up being. But I do think it's almost too late. Like if you haven't started farming shards, I think you should just be holding off until they're accelerated.
Agreed.
That's my plan.
Well, it's a self-limiting thing for the most part, anyways, because if you haven't already started farming Inquisitors, then you're probably not ready to gear them and make them,
Yeah.
relevant to the TB anyways. So you might as well wait till they're accelerated.
Yep.
But I would put a mark on the calendar for April. When they are accelerated, they're probably going to be something you're going to want to start farming immediately.
I 100% agree. And everyone who's saying I'm never farming Inquisitors is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. Remember early in our conversation when I said there's one off meta counter to Jabba?
I was wondering if, yeah.
It's Grand Inquisitor. That's what's beating Jabba. So I know there's a lot of sentiment out there that says, Inquisitors are terrible, but Grand Inquisitor is beating Jabba in GAC. Like his Omicrons are not active, and he's beating him in GAC. And in Territory War, Inquisitors beat almost every GL with his lead Omicron. So they are good. They're just not. I know they're expensive, and there's plenty of reasons to not farm them if you're not ready for them, but Inquisitors are good. They're not bad.
You could be like me. I have them almost all at R7 or 7-star. I just haven't started putting gear on them yet.
Well, I hope you have 2,000 Chirotech lying around.
Yeah, I know. That's why I haven't started putting gear on them yet. Why do you have to remind me of that?
I do think it's interesting. Like, just why does everyone hate Inquisitors so much, but no one hated Bad Batch? Like,
I can answer that. I have a theory as to why that is. So, do you guys remember when the Inquisitor marquees came out and you played them and they took forever to
They
beat?
sucked.
Because in the event, for some reason, CG was like, we're going to put them in there with no mods and they're going to hit like wet noodles. So, of course, everybody thinks that the Inquisitors suck because everybody did their marquee events and it took forever to kill freaking Phoenix.
The squad they're specifically designed to beat.
Yeah. So, like, that's honestly that, and I'm sure, everybody's favorite large streamer. I don't think I don't remember exactly what he said about them, but I'm pretty sure he was negative about them on release. And so, everybody gets that.
He always said that there was one more piece that was necessary, and it ended up being the Grand Inquisitor. If you watch the gameplay that he threw down, he was very open. He could see the potential from them, but he was just like, until we get the final piece, it's not worth going into.
Yeah.
But to your point,
first impressions, right? Like everybody gets the first impression. Everybody wants to like pile on to the supposed meta knowledge or whatever. And of course, if you don't mod them well, like if you put your trash mods on them, of course they're going to suck. Like you can't put your trash mods on your JMK team and expect him to, perform at the top level and kill Lord Vader and blah blah blah. Like you got to mod them too. So like I don't know.
I think the thing that brought some disdain from the community about them is that it felt like they were like immediately like shoved down your throat. It was like boom. And I guess the argument, Bad Batch was sort of the same. But to me just felt like, as soon as they introduced it, it was like it was required for, all these little like side battles and everything like that. And then it was in Conquest and all this stuff, and you're just like, geez, like calm down, like for a second. Like I think that's why people sort of have a little bit of angst against really buying them.
Yeah, that's definitely something that that I've seen is that even when Bad Batch came out, they were doing the Galactic challenges that were geared for Bad Batch, but it wasn't saying Bad Batch required. It said Clone Trooper required.
Yeah.
So even though it was meant for the Bad Batch, it wasn't super focused onto them. Whereas the Inquisitors, it's like they're not going to put Dark Force unaligned Force users as the requirement for a Galactic challenge when they want the Inquisitors in there. They're going to have to just say need Inquisitors.
Right.
Well, and if you think back to the Bad Batch marquee event, and this is why I think it was the marquee event that shaped everybody's perception more than anything. Bad Batch marquee events were actually cool because, like, their kits, you get defense up on them, and then everything just starts melting, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that was so cool! I just wiped out that entire team with like 2 turns."
Well,
And
but that was the thing. They
Wizard.
released the leader first, right?
Yes, that's true.
You had the leader up front, and you could just see how everything was building on each other as you were going through it. Whereas with the Inquisitors, the actual leader came out last, and so you're like, how is this team synergizing in a way that it's going to make it fun to play? And they never were able to sell that. They did it backwards, to be honest.
Not only did the leader come out last, you have to get everyone else R5 to unlock him.
Right. Yeah.
And his event
Yeah.
doesn't come back for 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
But yes, I do agree. I think we've underestimated the power of the Inquisitors. It's just hard to get people to be willing to make that investment. It's a huge investment, especially now that we're so far into it. So I agree. Wait till April. Take that accelerated farming mode and just be prepared to know that you're going to have to farm them. It's going to be a team you're going to have to farm at some point in time.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the next conversation. And that is, are CG being dicks about Red 5? And I'll put a little context about this. There's been a lot of clues and hints that CG has been throwing down there using the word red just over and over and over again. Anyone want to build on that?
Yes, they are being dicks. Everybody wants Red 5, even my Mortis members who absolutely hate everything to do with fleets want Red 5.
You want to give a little more history about the Reds going down?
I mean, I haven't paid too much attention to all the different. I mean, they've definitely teased it, and that's frustrating knowing that something that the community wants, they know the community wants it, and they're teasing us about it. It's annoying. At some point, I hope they deliver. I'm just afraid that it's going to be a locked tune in the new TB.
I think
Fair.
it's the
So as I was going to say, as I understand, both of the puzzles for the most recent tune that's being released had, as part of their clue in it, red. And then they released the new Datacron levels, what we're going to see in Datacron, and then they had three letters within that whole series of text highlighted in red, RED. So there's a heavy hint that something red is coming our way, but they haven't announced what it is. And I think that's where we're going to of why we're getting this possibility of Red 5 being sent down to us. Am I incorrect, Lab?
Basically, the new community manager, Meathead, has been like in like 3 or 4 posts now. He started in September, I think. He put red in the title, oh no, August. It was August.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was August. August
August
burned the
1st.
red.
Yeah. That was the title of something that he put out. And so, of course, the entire community immediately started speculating, what's red? Oh, red 5, of course. I'm not sure if he meant to tease red 5 or not, but if he didn't, he has definitely strung us along and has been trolling us for the last like 3 or 4 months, because every post that he makes, it seems, has some sort of mention of red, whether it's his favorite band, or like he mentioned the Hunt for Red October last month, and of course, and you alluded to his Datacron post for this month has the letters RED highlighted in red. So he could be just trolling us, which he has historically. That's what he's been doing, like in the event server. In most of his official communications with us, has been kind of this disdainful trolling type. Most of the players who pay attention to that sort of thing are really hoping that he gets replaced soon, because he does not seem to have a very good relationship with the community at large. But anyways, yeah, that's where this red 5 speculation has come from. It's hard to know if he's trolling us or if it's like a for real thing. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people think the red 5 is coming at some point. Count me as one of them. I just don't know how long it's going to be.
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing about that ship is that it's the one ship that should have already been in the game. Like from any true Star Wars fandom, like why is that ship not in this game? Like, that's dumb.
It's very surprising. Yes.
Is that the next sort of GL ship that's introduced? That isn't even a an admiral ship. It's just basically going to take the same amount of effort that we have to do now for Profundity or any of these other new ships.
No.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
I was hoping for it to be this conquest, the ship for this conquest, not the Scythe, but
come on, man, you weren't excited for the Scythe?
I mean, we just had the conversation about the Inquisitors, so maybe I'm doing everything I can to make sure I unlock it by the end of the 6-month cycle that it'll be in the a conquest reward, but I'm not going hard for it.
Yeah.
And we didn't even say, but this is a very, very generous conquest. Like, I'm gonna easily unlock him. Yeah, same. After 6 conquests, but these feats are very, very reasonable. I'll just be farming Datacrons and like just naturally getting to box 6, like tier 6, very easily.
Yeah.
So, but to tie this back into kind of like, they just showed us how their plan for splitting Empire in 2. They just laid out the groundwork for, like, we realize we have 2 very good kind of like Empire fleets, but like at least like 2 good capital ships. And the community was kind of even split on which one was the one you should be using. Obviously, Profundity is much better than Akbar, but Akbar, up until Profundity came out, was a good meta ship. It beat a lot of stuff in the meta. Like, this isn't Mace Windu. Like, Akbar was very, very good, and there's a lot of rebel ships just sitting around now. There is ways to structure your Profundity fleet so that you can still field a good rebel fleet. In general, rebel fleet is now, like, the Akbar fleet is just for cleanup. You're not using it. My understanding is that once I get Profundity, Akbar will turn into a cleanup fleet.
Yes.
It is very close to being a good fleet. Like, you can look at especially you have Biggs, Biggs, I guess, is kind of with Profundity, but like, it's very close to being good. And you look at how they treated the Executrix, and you could see Red 5 coming in and doing something very similar for Rebels, and that would give us 9 fleets in the game. And There's your
Yeah.
one extra fleet, which you were so worried about, so we could make one mistake on offense and still full clear.
Yeah. So that may be what we're looking for down the line.
But and I guess now that I'm saying it, that almost kind of, if that is their plan and they're eyeing 2023 with that kind of like the 4 ships on defense, it does say hopefully that like Red 5 won't be impossible to get if it is something that they do want us to like get in a reasonable amount of time. My concern was putting it onto some kind of like special node in TB. But like we know from Cam that can take, even the best guilds take like 6 to 9 months to unlock, and the rest of us can be well over a year.
You may just hit the nail on the head. Maybe that is what the TB reward is.
Maybe it'd be get 3 to like the
Yeah.
negotiator.
Yeah. I actually see a new admiral coming in very soon. I don't know where exactly it's going to come from. Maybe from one of the TV series that's coming up. But I do see a whole new fleet model, a whole new admiral ship coming into the play soon, just so they can continue to build out the fleets. I don't see them pushing for on defense until they have an 11th potential fleet with a lot of ships coming in.
What
We
if they
need more.
start? Oh, sorry about love.
No, it's fine. We need more starfighters.
Yeah.
We
Like,
do, but
even if you look at the scythes, the kit, like it's very obvious that they were designing the kit with the fact that we don't have enough starfighters in mind. They're like, okay, let's just give them a bunch of Imperial TIE fighter summons and that'll fill out the fleet. But like, if you think about Mace's fleet, like he doesn't even have a
Yeah.
fleet.
Well,
he doesn't.
I was
need-
gonna say
Yeah.
Bad Batch could start
Yeah.
getting, like, if you start giving Bad Batch ships.
Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, that would be cool. But like we need more starfighters. We can't, and it can't just be one Bad Batch ship either. It's gonna have to be
No.
like at least 3 of them, right?
Yeah.
And maybe another like crewless ship.
Yeah. So like maybe they'll bring in another, another capital ship at some point, but we gotta have starfighters to go with it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have to make an easier way for us to get those starfighters. Because unfortunately,
Accelerate the farm on fleet ships.
they've already pushed fleet energy so hard into gear farming that it makes it really hard for them to all of a sudden divert us into other fleets. Anyway.
I'll be
All right.
honest. I almost have every single ship 7-starred. Like
I'm pretty close. Yeah.
I'm working on the last star on Raven's Claw. I'm at the very end of Sith Fighter. And then I think the only other one that I don't have yet is TIE Reaper. And I'm probably going to want that to go with the new, the second Empire fleet at some point. But that's it. Like, so I mean, they could very well add some more ships to fleet energy, like one every 3 months or something like that. If their plan is, by the end of next year to have more fleet slots, I could see that being a way they do it. Or they could
Yeah.
just do conquest units.
Yeah. We'll see. TB also has a lot of potential, depending on which route people choose to take, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I could agree that Red 5 very well might be a reward there. Remember that we're almost certainly going to be able to do this TB twice a month since it's
Yeah.
light and dark. So any cam type event will be done twice as fast.
Exactly.
So you really, really need Inquisitors.
No.
Probably. Probably.
It comes back
You're
around.
losing 2 shards a month by not having them, not just 1.
Bringing it back to Inquisitors. All right. We're already at about over an hour, so let's bring it on to our last subject, and that's Datacron Set 5. There's a lot of questions. The big one was Lord Vader is yet to be really helped by a Datacron set. Is this the one that's going to do it? And will Malgus please stand up?
Yeah, the Malgus thing was just because when Malgus got released, we had him for like 10 minutes, and then we all got his tier 9 Datacron. That pretty much just means he spams his second special, which if anyone went out and put all of his Omicrons on, the one Omicron hasn't been used in the last like 4 months. Or 3 months or whatever, however long ago that was. So this will kind of be a true test of how good Malgus is. Most of us have had that Datacron on him for this whole time, so what we've been fighting and kind of like what our opponents have had to do has been pretty skewed by that Datacron.
Yep. So, like, just to give a quick overview of Malgus meta, like in GAC, he's an absolute terror, especially with that Datacron. Like, you can't really off meta him. Not a good Malgus team, anyways, which most people do have, if they have that Datacron. So, and yeah, he's been spamming that second special because of that Datacron. So the question becomes, how good is he without the Datacron? And how good is that Omicron that people have put on that that requires him to use his first special, which he wasn't spamming because of the Datacron? So a lot of questions to be answered about Malgus in the next GAC. And of course, it's 3v3. And Malgus is very strong in 3v3. So, yeah, let's see. I expect him to still be a terror. It's going to be hard for Gas to counter him if he's like properly set up. I think in GAC, anyways. In Territory Wars, Gas is going to walk all over him.
Yeah, I was using Gas already to beat Malgus in TW. It was really gross, and you were going to lose a bunch of like. You probably were just getting it alive with Gas, but he could still get there even with like the Datacrons.
Yeah, as long as he's not like R9 or something, yeah, you can still kill
for
the
sure.
Gas. If you start seeing him at R9, then Gas doesn't. Gas gets super dicey, aka loses a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So before we go too far down the rabbit hole in this conversation, what are the two new Datacrons ultimately set out at their top level to affect? Again, some background.
Yeah, so the two factions they're going after are like SLKR and First Order, and also Bounty Hunters, specifically Java.
Yeah.
Are the two like are who so which is kind of is this the first time that no light side has been a final, like it wasn't split?
It
That
is.
both
Yeah.
factions are dark side?
Yep.
Yeah. So all of your T3s, all your T6s, they're all going to be dark side, and First Order and Bounty Hunters are who we're lifting this time.
Okay. So that's out of the way. How are you planning on using them moving forward?
Well, I think it remains to be seen exactly which ones are going to be the best. I can tell you that the top guilds are emphasizing the Phasma Omicron.
Yeah.
Because now, and I say that don't rush out and try to get your Phasma Datacron just yet, because remember those level 9 Omicron or Datacrons require Relic 7 on the character, and Phasma is only required at level 5 or at Relic 5 for SLKR. So it's going to require a Relic investment from you if you want to use that. But looks like in Territory Wars, if you have the Phasma Omicron and you get that Datacron, that she will just kill all the problematic Lord Vader teams. She'll go first, and Lord Vader will never take a turn. She'll just kill him. So that's the first thing that I see in this set. I think that's what the top guilds will be doing. I don't think it's super reasonable for anybody other than the top guilds to like mass swarm the Phasma Datacron, but just know that that's out there.
Yeah.
From a more like beginner, or like not beginner, but like a smaller account, like what are you looking at? The thing that I think is like a lot more reasonable is the getting that 15% turn meter. So whenever allies use a special ability, they gain 15% turn meter. like that's just a T3. It works on all dark side tunes. I think like that is like something you could farm a few of and just start slotting them into your teams to really help. Like if you put that on troopers, your troopers are really gonna go.
That could be a fun defensive team too, right?
Yeah, like I just think like
Yeah.
kind of like a good Datacron that's cheap. Yeah, like troopers on defense. Yeah, I mean, you could put Watt on it if you really wanted to just
Oh, that would be.
mess with people, and because then you're gonna go uh first. Yeah, I don't want to face that. But I think yeah, like I think this will lift. Like I think bounty hunters have some good. I was kind of looking like some bounty hunter teams. Like if you have Zam already running fast for your GAC, there's some good stuff here for T6. I don't really think any of if outside of Jabba, I don't think any of these characters are worth bringing to R7 for bounty hunters, unless you already have Cad Bane at R7 for fleet. If you have that, then his is pretty good. I don't know. I think the bounty hunters are pretty, but I think you could stop at T6 for bounty hunters.
I think for many people, T6 is going to be the top level unless you have your first order built up. T6 looks like to be for the average player probably as far as you need to go with these. And there may be some positives in that. It allow you to build more sets rather than focus uberly into one set.
Yeah, the data cache gets really expensive to go to T9.
Yeah.
So I think like the other kind of like the big thing about this set, me and Lau were kind of talking ahead of time, is the stats in this set are really, really good. There's no dodge, but like if you remember the first Datacron set, Hellsteel is back. So even though there's no light side Datacrons, you can put Hellsteel back on Ray. There's like really good health and protection. I think they even buffed the health and protection percentages. Right, so you got more health percentage, you got crit damage, you got armors back again, so you can kind of any team like Gas who would really love just having 200% armor just sitting on him and fives to start that match. So I think a lot of, even though if you're looking at your roster and you're wondering what am I going to do with light side, I think there's some good Datacron. You'll end up with some Datacrons that will make sense on your light side teams, even without the set bonuses.
Yeah, it seems with this, it might be a better idea to try to start stacking more Datacrons at lower levels than pour all your resources into the T9. Because, when you have, JMK and JML with a tier 2 Datacron, it's still better than having it without.
Yeah. All right. So I have a sixth item on the agenda, and this one's very selfish of me. I don't know how many people have heard. I had an incident this last week where I injured myself like a stupid idiot. And I'll tell my story, and then I'm going to ask everyone on this chat to tell your story of your stupidest injury you've ever had. But in my case, I was borrowing a vehicle that was a 3-foot jacked up Jeep because my vehicle had broken down. I go to park the vehicle, and as I had stopped, I grabbed my laptop backpack, start carrying it out of the car, and realized that I didn't have the car in park. So I reach over, quickly try to throw the car in park, which I was able to do successfully. But the backpack kept flowing outside, and rather than let my laptop fall on the ground and break, I decided to try to save it. And instead got pulled out of the car, fell 3 feet onto the curb, and fractured my hip. Isn't that a great story?
That's
What a
something.
great story, yeah. That's really bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
How are you
I
doing?
mean, I'm ready for all the old man jokes to flow at me.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we were there yet.
Do you have
Yes,
your life alert on you?
Yeah.
yes, exactly. I'm getting around fine, but anyone else have a stupid story about having a stupid injury for being just, not in the moment?
Not that stupid.
Well, no, I didn't expect anyone to have something that stupid. I'm just trying to give our people, a pizza story, pineapple on pizza story.
Yeah, I've got one. This goes back to my sophomore year of college down at James Madison, and this was probably 2005, 2006. Me and my buddy, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Surprisingly, at this point, we're actually sober.
I know.
It was like a Thursday night or something, or Tuesday night or something. We just neither of us could sleep, and so we decided to go around campus just taking stupid pictures. And we decided to get a mid-air action shot of me jumping down like 9 steps. Well, instead of I completely flat foot stuck the landing and shattered my foot,
Oh,
and then limped back to my dorm room on that foot to try to get a good night's sleep, and ended up in the ER the first thing next morning.
yeah. So that's what happened to me after falling on my, hip. An hour later, I'm calling an ambulance to take me to the hospital because I couldn't move. So I fully feel you on that. Brax, do you have a story?
Well, unfortunately, I don't. Man, I've had stitches a couple times, but other than that, like, I've never broke a bone. I've never been seriously injured. So I'm knocking on wood as I say that, but I wish I had something cool to share. But anytime that I had stitches, it was when I was a kid, and it was just being a kid stuff that you get stitches. So it's not any crazy fun story or anything like that.
Yeah, that's of course. Lab, you have anything?
Yeah, the thing. So I'm like Brax, where I've never actually broken a bone in my body that I know of, but I did have one particular injury back in high school. I played baseball, and I was in the batting cage, and I was throwing to one of my teammates, and I didn't quite get behind the screen in time after I threw it, and he hit a line drive shot right back at me, hit me in the jaw,
Oh,
and like I saw stars, blacked out for a few minutes. When I came to, I looked up and saw his face. His face had gone white. He was like, "Oh, and he ran inside to the school to get the school nurse. Basically, I mean, it was probably like a hairline fracture or something like that in my jaw. But the side of my face, it looked like I had elephantitis, like the biggest bruise. It was probably almost a baseball bruise on my face. And so for the next couple of days, I was at school with this giant darkened blob on the side of my face from not getting behind the batting cage screen in time. So, whoops. I haven't made that mistake again. I can assure you that I was very lucky that it did not hit a couple inches above where it did, or else it
yeah.
would have probably killed me.
How much crap did you take for that?
A decent amount. I got a decent amount of ragging, but I think it was softened by the disfiguration that came with it. I think people felt pretty sorry for me when they saw the giant darkened blob. And fortunately, it all kind of went away. You can't tell that it happened anymore. But yeah, for about a week afterwards, it was a stark reminder that it's not a good idea to stay outside of the screen when you're throwing batting cage to someone who knows what they're doing.
or just getting hit in the face with a baseball in general is probably not a fun ordeal, right?
No, it's not. I mean, a line drive straight back to the face off
Oh,
of
yeah.
an aluminum bat. That's dangerous.
Oh
I'm very lucky to be alive.
I played enough softball as pitcher to understand where you're coming from. All right, who are we missing here on this conversation?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I want like a fun injury or like why I'm also an old man and like the accumulation of. I'll try to make you feel better about just old man injuries. It's not as bad as a broken hip. That's but
Technically just fractured. I can
okay. If
I didn't
fracture
need
something,
surgery.
I broke it. I had a wonderful experience in the winter time last year. So I live in Canada. Some of you have figured out from my apparent accent. And I
boots.
spent the morning shoveling the driveway, and then I spent the rest of the day building a snow fort with my son. And I came into the house and I bent over to put his gloves onto the heater. And the act of me bending over completely blew my back out to the point where I was stuck lying on the floor of my house with the rest of my family outside. And so I had to crawl on my hands, like using my elbows, to get to the front door to scream outside. And like I got to the bed and I got out of bed like 3 days later. But yeah, I blew my back out pretty hard bending over to put gloves on a heater. That was not a great war story.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I've blew my back out with a sneeze, so yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for helping me commiserate with my current pain right now. And thank you all for joining for today's Senate Roundtable. I thought it was really good, incredible introspective that all of you gave. This was one of our best yet. So thank you for joining and all the great work that you do.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you.
for having me.
Any last words from anyone here?
Farm Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll have
Cool.
announced Red 5 by the time you're listening to this and my suffering will be over.
Because it's part of my duty as the assistant head of recruiting. I just want to say, all the recruiters out there, keep up the good work. I know it's tough right now. Keep doing your thing.
Yeah. A very underappreciated group of individuals. It keeps this alliance alive. Thanks for all the work that you do. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will get back to you soon with another episode of the Senate Roundtable. Until then, we will see you later. Bye.